Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Surandini, and I'm an entrepreneur who has been associated with Inside IIM as a host since 2022. In this webinar, we have with us a product manager working at Titan, who is also an alum of MICA. She's actually an architect who switched her career to management. Please welcome Tanya Sridhar. We will talk about her journey in Titan and also understand her experiences as a product manager. Just a side note, if you are doing an MBA, you know the importance of this. She received her PPO very early in her MBA journey. So we'll shed a special light on that. And she has also been working with us since 2019, donning several hats, that is content marketer, consultant, mentor, instructor. And we are also going to talk about that as well. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please comment on the live chat. We'll take those at the end of the session. And really great having you here, Tanya.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sunandini. Thank you, Inside IIM.
So, Tanya, were you a kid with big dreams and ambitions is what we want to know. And why we want to know is that we have seen that you have a very diverse career. You switched your career from architecture to management. You also started your MBA with a specialization in marketing. And as we speak, you're currently the PM of Titan. And additionally, you were also part of Inside IIM as we spoke. So we want to understand where you came from and how that shaped your choices. So can you just shed a light on your dreams as a kid and what were you doing when you were in 12th grade?
Sure. So I'm not very sure about the fact that ambitious. I think there were notes of that for sure. But one thing that I was definitely was somebody who was very structured in her approach. And I think this had been some trait that I've always had. I'd make a lot of lists and, I'd be very, I think about things a lot. But once I take one path, then I'll be like, okay, fine, let me just explore this piece. So yeah, I was always a nerd for sure. I was that one of those people who would sit in the front, take notes. So yes, it has been that kind of a journey for me. That was the start.
Got it. So were you a long-term thinker, if I must say?
I think I tried to be one, but as and when, opportunities or different aspects of, what I was doing started to, appeal to me, I thought that is something that I should keep pursuing. So long term, in a way that, I knew that I want to do something big in life. But how I would figure out something that I would keep it to, micro level. Okay, this one day at a time. What do I do now? What do I do next year? So it'll be very little less time period.
Yeah, got it. So why architecture to begin with?
Why architecture? So when I was in class 12th, I was preparing for engineering, and in engineering, I had also thought that I'll be looking at design and architecture because design as a concept used to appeal me a lot. And I used to be somebody who would be, in bits and pieces, creative, as they say. And that is something that I thought I'll also kind of pursue. When I did, the AIEEE rank that I got for architecture was much better than the AIEEE for engineering. And I think I would leave, that's what happened. So it was by chance that I went to architecture. It wasn't by choice. It's not like I was preparing from day one. But that's just how it happened. And then, 5 years into architecture.
That's a long commitment, no? Architecture.
Yeah.
So when, I guess after architecture, you thought that, okay, this is something which you don't want to pursue for long, and you shifted your, your incidences, or there were some situations which shifted your focus to marketing. So do you have any example that maybe you were walking down the street and you saw a hoarding, you're like, oh, it's amazing marketing. And you were like, I also want to do something like that.
As a kid, I used to be fascinated by advertisements in general. There would be people who would switch channels in TV and they would switch so that they don't have to look at the ads. I was the other kid. I would be like, I want to sit and see what's happening in this particular ad. And that used to be very interesting for me. But when I was in architecture, I think architecture as a profession is something that teaches you very all around, it's a holistic learning. And they will tell you about user psychology. They'll tell you about details and structuring. So it was very structural. Plus, it was also in terms of getting a psychological understanding of what the user wants, what is the insight that you have to work with. So I think in that architecture kind of helped me. But when it comes to the switch, it was a very interesting story. When I came out of architecture, I started as a dual role in architecture and also as a business development manager in the firm that I was representing. So I started marketing that firm, and in India, the people who are architects, they'll know that you can't market very outrightly. So I had to come up with very interesting ways to market our firm. Like you can't put posters and that you're an architect, and you can't do all of that. So what you're supposed to instead do is you can be, you find ways to have a lot of networking more than marketing, so that you have a network of people who can give you those projects. So I started finding, hacks into how to go about getting more projects. And when I started doing that, I realized marketing is something that really interests me. It is creative, and it is also very quick thinking. What are you supposed to do next? And it's also in terms of understanding the psychology of what you're the person or the target group that you are going to be addressing. So when that happened, I thought I should get some proper training in it, and that is how the MBA happened in marketing.
Got it. And was Mica the obvious choice?
Uh, Again, it was by chance. So one thing that I knew was that everybody used to tell that if it's marketing, if you're 100% sure that it's going to be marketing, then you should definitely go to Mica. If you're a little unsure as to what kind of a stream you want to go, then you should go for, the IIMs, so that there you kind of figure out in the first year, it's a general thing. And the second year, you can somewhat choose your specialization as per your courses. So, but in my head, I had jotted it down to two. So in MBA, there are four main lines. One is operations, second is HR, then there is finance, and then there's marketing. So I had gotten down and shortlisted to either an HR or a marketing. So when I was kind of figuring between these two, I think marketing is something, because I got a taste of it and I realized that it's something which is interesting. Let me try that. And then a lot of people, were speaking about Mica a lot. So I tried the entrance, and luckily I got through. And finally I entered Mica.
Okay. And can you explain maybe the culture of Mica and your major learnings there?
Okay, sure. The Mica culture is very different from any B school. In my, I think, first year, like one of the classes that there was, one of the professors was asking this question, and I remember answering that to me, Mica was a mix of NID Ahmedabad and an IIM. So it was like a design school in its soul, but it also was teaching you how to be a good manager. So therefore, it was also a management B school. So it was like an amalgamation of these two. So I think, which is why it is very unique from the other colleges that are there in India. And I have I've spoken to a lot of people from different B schools, but the kind of culture that they have is very different and very unique. So that I definitely give it to Mica. In terms of learnings, one was that I think for me, everything was new. Because I was coming from architecture, it was very different. So for me, every learning every day was like, okay, it's an open book. What am I going to be learning today? And I just went through the days like that. And one of the biggest takeaway was the diversity in the class. There were people from fashion design. There were a lot of engineers, of course, and there was a dentist. So there were people from different backgrounds, and they would the group discussions or the discussions in the classroom were very entertaining and amusing, because people would get their own perspectives. So that way it was pretty good.
Got it. So let's just say you were a person who was almost sure about marketing at this point of time when you joined Mica. And I want to dig deeper and see what broke down and you became a PM after that. So what was your thought process? How was it changing from an architect to a management person in maybe the first year of your college?
So the first year was a little intimidating, if I'll be very honest, because especially for me, because I had not come from an engineering line. So therefore, for me, I had not sat through placements ever, and there was not a lot of competition within the classroom that I'd faced. So therefore, in the first year, generally the kind of courses that are there is that it's pretty packed. The first year is extremely packed, and similarly, it was here in Mica as well. And in that, I kind of thought, okay, like let's try to figure it out a little more. And that's when I sat through placements. And the first year management was something that every day, like, they'd be teaching a little bit of it. So piece by piece, you'd get to know how to be a good manager.
Got it. And you also took your summer internship at Titan, right?
Yeah.
So how did you get in Titan?
Okay, so this was through my summer placements in MICA. A lot of companies come, and Titan happens to be like usually a day one company. And Titan is a company that at least I have like super big a fan of, because I used to use all of their products, and I also wear specs. So for me, Titan Eye Plus has been like something that I keep going back to. So for me, I knew that company already. It's a consumer-facing company. I wanted to be in a consumer-facing environment so that I can, solve problems of the consumer. So then during some placements, Titan had come to our campus, and there was like a focus group discussion. There was a group discussion, and then there was an interview that followed it. Two people from Titan had come to take that interview, and thankfully I got through, and that's my summer internship journey that started.
Got it. So basically, I want to understand, as you say that you're culturally fit for Titan. So what is the culture of Titan?
The culture of Titan, it is very, I think one of the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Titan as a workplace is the fact that it has work-life balance. And they do keep their employees at the core of it. And that goes to show in each and every day when, if somebody is trying to, like, there are boundaries to, okay, this is going to be work, and after that you can work on your own. But if you're talking to somebody else, it has to be an urgent matter if you're trying to take somebody else's personal time out to have a conversation. So I think that work life balance is something which is very integral to the company. Then there are aspects of celebrating peers, like, be it in terms of parties, be it in terms of celebrations for certain milestones that we have. So those kind of, that is something that it's going above and beyond to what the regular workplace will kind of provide you. So one small thing that we do as a team, this is an idea of our head of marketing. So we have a 1 hour slot on Fridays, which is called a Fun Friday. So there we discuss what are the new things that we've learned in, a particular week. So what are the new things that we are up to, or what have we done in the past 1 year, which is non-work. So that way we get to know our colleagues much more and their interests.
So you got your PPO in your first year itself. Just correct me if I'm wrong with the timing. So you got it in the first year itself. How does that change one's mindset, because we are always hustling 2 years of MBA to get that job, or, to have that ambition to go at the top level. So getting it in the first year, how is the mindset when you do that? For the second year, what will you think? What are you doing for the second year then?
Yeah, so what usually happens is that one of the main end goals of a management institute is essentially the kind of placement that you come out with, because that is kind of one of the biggest. Of course, there is a lot of learning, but this other big thing is the fact that which company are you going to get placed in because of the fact that you've been in a particular B school. So here with Titan, what had happened was that after summer internship gets closed, there is like, they like your project, and then they'll give you an option to interview. And once you interview, if they like you, if they think you're a cultural fit, then they will give you a PPO. In Titan's case, that PPO comes very early. So the moment you start your second year, they announce their PPOs. And for me, luckily, I had gotten through the PPO. And then the motivation, because the maximum motivation is that you have to be in a particular company, right? So that already is taken care of. And now you have the second year to not prepare for a company, but just generally absorb life in an MBA school. And therefore, that motivation goes to something else. So you need to then be like, okay, what motivates you next? So for me, what motivated me next was a lot of corporate competitions. Because I like to I really like to solve case studies and problems. So that is something that I would keep engaging in a lot of competitions, B school competitions or corporate competitions. what are the problems that the CXOs are facing, and how can you try to solve those. So I think that was a good brain churner. And then I'd pick up a few other things also. For instance, I started learning football in the second year, and frisbee also. So things
Oh,
like that.
that is cool. And I think that was the time when you were also part of Inside IIM as well,
Yeah,
right? The
yeah,
second year.
yeah.
And like, I just want to know, first of all, why did you choose Inside IIM? I want to understand that.
So when I was preparing for MBA, I would read a lot of articles about Inside IIM, and a lot of it was people telling their honest stories about how did they make it, how
Like
did
we are
they
doing
achieve,
right now, right?
how did they achieve a particular like a percentile, and those were things that I, as a person, I was actually struggling with. And whenever I would search for those answers inside IIM's, you know
SEO was coming up.
yeah, so they would kind of answer those questions for me. And there would be definitely like one or two things that I would pick up from each interview that I would read, or each article that I would read. So that kind of made me think that one day even I want to contribute, even I want to be in a B school and see inside a B school and then give them that perspective. So Inside IIM came up with like a program. I think it was a program. If I'm not wrong, I think it was in my first year, second half of my first year. My placement had already happened, and they had come up with this program that they want to pick 20 people in the entire nation. And this will be a student team that they'll be making inside colleges. And those people are going to be responsible for telling what's happening inside their campuses. So on that opportunity, and it was like there were rounds of interviews. How can you contribute to it? And they were also telling how will I get like my learnings from it. So it was a good conversation that I had with the people in Inside IIM. And that's how my journey with Inside IIM for that content piece started.
So I didn't know you then because I just recently joined. When I saw that you were part of it, I was curious and I was like, I have a written question. What happened at that time? So I
Yeah.
think you started with one-on-one mentorship, if I'm not wrong, in the platform council, where it was the first thing that you did, one-on-one mentorship. Is that something that you
Yes, yes, yes.
did?
This was, I think, post coming out of college, and it was a one-on-one mentorship wherein I was telling, because I had sat through a process of resume building, therefore I knew what to put in a resume, and how to go about answering questions. What are the keywords that you can put so that your CV gets shortlisted by a. Usually, the CV gets kind of shortlisted by either a person like in the HR department or a software. So therefore, how to word your CV. There are times when we have done a lot, but we're not able to put it in the CV properly. So that is the kind of one-on-one session that I gave to a lot of people.
Great. And I also saw from your history, like we have a history page of, whatever you did in our uh, company. So I also saw you were part of MyCat and Club Altuni, which has very different sets of, audience. So do you have any learnings which were different and how different were these two experiences?
So Club Altuni and sorry, what was the second one that you said?
The MyCat. So I think MyCat you did
Yeah.
first, and Club Altuni was the recent session that you took on PM
Yeah.
after you became a PM at.
Yeah. So MyCat was because I had gone through that journey of preparing for MyCat and what are the kind of questions. I wanted to take a workshop in particular, and it wasn't about just telling them, okay, this is how it is and this is how it is. It was actually like a very hands-on thing wherein after telling them what tips and tricks and techniques they can put in the questions, there was also like a test that I would give them. Okay, now apply those tips and tricks that I've told you in this particular question. And then it was kind of like a mini cohort of 20 people who were competing against each other, who are actually going to be competing in the exam also. So it gave people a test, a taste of what's going to happen in the next few years for MyCat. And that is how the MyCat, the classes that I take for MyCat is that's the process for it. And for Club Altuni, it is a little different. It is for MyCat, I am representing a student who's taken that competition. But when it comes to Club Altuni, I'm representing a professional who is on the other side of And because Club Alt Uni is there are a lot of CXO interactions that happen in Club Alt Uni, and a lot of one-on-ones also. With their people interact with a lot of people to understand what kind of a career would they want to pursue. So there I'm speaking as a professional and telling what are the kind of skill sets company is looking for when they're trying to hire you, what are the different courses. So in that, I took a course for people who are interested in the real products management. So that is what I do currently.
Got it. So just before we go into PM role, I want to come back and think about you as a kid and some learnings. You are in MICA, you are working for inside IIM. Was it a side stint, or did you actually learn something that was valuable in your life and in your career?
In terms of inside IIM?
Well, inside IIM, yeah.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it was because, like when I was the student member, there were people who were from different backgrounds and different colleges, and what were they doing, what were they focusing on, that is something that you get to understand, and also you get to then make friends in those colleges. So I think that was one of my biggest things, because I would then make friends with people who were in different colleges, and then we would collaborate later, and basically it's like improving your network of people that you know. So I think that is where it kind of helped me a lot.
Got it. So yeah, let's come to the point. I think many people want to hear this. So after the end of MICA, you joined Titan as a PM, which was a new and a different role for you. Let's understand why a person with not a direct background in PM not only ends in this role, but is also celebrated as the perfect fit for Titan. So first of all, the question is, why did Titan choose you? According to you, what was there that they wanted?
I like the fact that you put according to you, because I will never know the real answer. But but I think so. What happens in Titan is that when you start as a management, when you join the company, you start as a management trainee, and that training happens for a year. In that, there'll be different parts of the business that you will get to know. And then finally, there is a core project of 6 months, which is something where I started with this team that I'm in, which is the international business. And in that team, when I kind of showed interest and inclination towards how to go about these products. So because watches for me was a very new category, and I went into the depths of understanding, okay, what are the different components, what happens in a watch, how do you go about it? And by virtue of the fact that I had design in my background, I think that helped a lot, because I had gotten training in design in the years that I was doing. I had courses in design and design language. So therefore, that is something that they thought was something I could do. So it's very similar. If you put it that when a client is coming to you, when you're the architect, a client comes to you with a brief, you understand, okay, what is the user or the target group, who's going to be using that building, how are they going to be going about it, what is the psychology. Similarly, for watches also, it is very similar in the aspects wherein what is the target group. So therefore, you need to understand what are the certain design aspects that appeal to this particular target group. So you then go about interviewing them, and then there's an insighting that happens, and therefore you go to the design team to give them a brief. Okay, this is something that I want. And so it was like I could draw parallels when I was there. And I think that is something that even they saw, that by virtue of the fact that I had a design training and then I had a management training. So the product part got fixed by the design training, and manager part got fixed by the management training. So
okay, got it. So we got the other side, I guess, their side, why they chose you. Now I want to understand, as a kid, not a kid, a grown-up person who wanted to get into marketing when she stepped her foots on MICA, but then you ended up in a PM role. So how did that change, or the switch happened?
I think for me, it was a very easy decision, because this kind of a role in Titan is given to people who are 5-7 years into the system. But because international division is it operates like a startup within the large format company, so therefore they also wanted to get somebody on board. And when you are in a startup, the culture is that you are given much more responsibility. So the depth, the narrowness is not there, but there's like a whole array of things that you are going to be managing. So for me, it was very interesting because Titan is a retail company, and every retail company, the center of that retail company is the product. And even though I had been trained in brand management, when this opportunity came, I thought this is something that will take me above and beyond as a person. And I will learn much, much more in this stint than I could have ever asked for at this kind of an early stage. So therefore, for me, it was very easy. So I think the decision kind of lied on them, not on me, because I was like, yes, I'm definitely on board.
Got it. And if I may ask, what is the average salary of a PM?
So for a PM, I think honestly, this kind of varies. But generally, if you speak about a PM, it is the tech PM and not the real product PM. So this question is something that it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on which particular area are you working in, what are you in the kind of cities, or are you coming from tier 2 city, where are you working? And it's a lot of factors that go into finding an average here. So there are multiple aspects that go into it.
Got it. So any range that we can say, maybe in Bangalore itself, maybe in retail, as your company is in?
Honestly, it goes very high also if you're in a startup which is expected to grow heaps and bounds. And it depends on a lot of factors. So the definition of a range is not at all possible, because with a PM, I think, especially a tech PM, it could be enormous also, especially in Bangalore, which is like the center point of all startups.
And any average package of Mica itself? Is there any average salary?
The year that I had graduated in, the average was around 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now the question is, how does a day in a PM's life look like? So work-life balance, as you said, wanted to know if we have to see 1 week in your role, maybe a launch of a product or something like that. So can you just give us an example of how the day looks like?
So there are multiple aspects. I think one of the strongest one is stakeholder management. Because every time the word manager gets attached to, the maximum thing that you're managing is people. So therefore, there are a lot of different teams. One is your own team, then there is a design team, then there is a factory team. So I think one of the major thing or major chunk is in terms of managing those stakeholders. Having said that, then there are other aspects. For instance, you kind of research what is going to be the next big collection that you are thinking of. When are you going to be launching it? So there's a lot of strategic angle that goes to it. And finally, then the aspects of speaking or maybe having a conversation with the consumers. So I think it's in parts, it is like that. So if you look at a week, I think it would be a mix of sitting by yourself and thinking, and thinking of what could be the next thing, understanding what the competition is doing, where not just the competition for your own thing, but also different categories that are attached. So for instance, if I am looking at watches as a category, then what is apparel or clothing as a category doing? So because their trends also impact us, because anybody is going to be pairing their watch with the clothing item that they're wearing. So there's a lot of research that goes into it, being up to date about what's happening around. And finally, then there's also a lot of operational work, which I think is very essential, because that's the running of it. So you have to look at, okay, means that a project has to get closed at, and therefore there are a lot of follow-ups. Okay, where if there is some problem in a certain area, how to go about it. So multiple aspects keep happening at the same time. There'll be one product or a collection which is at the starting point, and then there's another one which is about to get launched. So you have to manage between all.
So in all, life is never boring.
Life is never boring at all. I think this is something that I think the moment you think it's boring, then it's time for you to maybe pick up something which is a little more wider a scope, because if it's boring, then it will not appeal to you and you will not bring your A game to that.
Got it. And I have always wondered, what is the career growth of a PM? Where do you go from there?
So for me in Titan, I would say that the career growth would be, first is understanding the product. Second is you understand the brand. And then once you've understood both aspects, so by product, I mean you first understand, okay, what is the market insight? Then you speak to the design team, then you speak to the factory team, you come up with the product, and then you launch the product. Once you've launched the product manager's role per se has gotten over. Now the marketing team takes over, and the marketing team's responsibility is for that product to be celebrated within the market. So that aspect comes in. So therefore, for me as a growth, it would be to understand then what happens in the part 2 or the phase 2 of launching a product. And then there is a sales. And then finally, you basically understand the whole marketing management, which is right from starting till the time the product gets sold.
So are you saying like product manager and then understanding the marketing side of it?
Yeah. So I think that is, then you will basically, then you try to understand, okay, this part of the life cycle of a product you understood. Now, once you've launched it, what happens next? So that is for the real products. But for the tech products, the growth is kind of in a manner wherein if you're handling one particular project, then multiple projects or multiple aspects of those projects, so that the entire app or an ecosystem is something that that you are going to be managing later.
Got it. And who heads these product managers?
So essentially how it happens is that there'll be like a PM role, like a PM role, and then there'll be a PM role, and then there'll be a senior PM role. Okay. Finally, then you'll go into a product lead. Okay. And and then there'll be like you'll be reporting to either a category director, and finally to the main person or the CEO, MD kind, CXO level person.
So is PM role a bit generic that we can change different industries or domain in this role?
The process of particular product out, be it a real or a tech product, the process of understanding first what the consumer wants, what is your competition. I hope my internet connection is stable.
A bit hazy right now. I think it's not fine now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So like I was saying, the process itself is pretty similar. The product may change, the aspect in which you're working, the industry you're working, that can change. So therefore, your problem statements, finding a solution to those problem statements remains the same. You speak to people, you understand consumer cohorts, and you finally, if there is like a demo that you want to launch, how, and then probably launch. The process and the steps to those processes remain. It is the industry that gets, or the kind that you're addressing that gets changed.
Got it. So if we talk about the future of product managers, so is there any particular skill that you think will help people for the future in this role?
In terms of skill set, like I was mentioning, a lot of the work is taken. I think as a skill set is pretty important. By that, you have to be an extrovert. If you are, then if you're able to talk to one and able to understand, then even better. But essentially, the work needs to get done. Our team, you're not managing. Those are different segments in the company. So therefore, you have that skill set where you are able to share. What do you need? That is what the brief is about. What exactly do you need? So writing, these are very softer aspects of the skill that are a lot.
Got it.
In this role, yeah.
Tanya, your Wi-Fi is not working very well. I think the network is a bit weak.
Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. Actually, it started to rain here, so it could be because of that.
It's Bangalore, so yeah, most probably. Yeah, I think better now. So, do you have any specific industry that you think will be the future for PM to enter in this industry?
Currently, it was like, there was a wave for ed tech. So
Hmm.
kind of changes from time to time. But fintech is something that is coming up a lot. So if people want to switch to that, that is something they can do. But if coming from the real product side, I think every kind of product solving a problem consumers. Otherwise, that product wouldn't exist if it wasn't solving any kind of a problem.
Hmm.
So I think each has its own importance. But currently, the focus is a lot on fintech. There's something.
So the last question from my side is, where do you see yourself and what motivates you now?
Okay, this is so. I think for me, at this particular stage in my life, everything is about learning, and everything is about what I can learn at the end of a day. At the end of a day, at the end of a week, at the end of similarly. So therefore, that aspect is super important, and that is something that motivates me a lot. You can have a bad day, or you can have like a day wherein nothing productive happened in that particular day. But if it continues to happen, there are different motivations for each person. Like for some people it is money, for some people it could be fame, for some people it could be growth, learning, perks, anything. So that one motivation, that first top motivation that you have, if that does not get solved or is not getting fulfilled, I think then people start to lose interest. So for me, that is at this moment and at this stage in my life, it is all about learning. For me, this is an extended MBA. I'm learning, and getting paid for that learning. So for me, it's a win-win.
So let's just put this across, like give the chance to our audience to ask you some questions. So
Sure.
we'll take up that now. So audience, just write questions, whatever you want to. And the first question we have, why did you choose an Indian company?
Indian company. Oh, okay. Firstly, the fact that I knew that product was something that ignited that passion to work in it. Second, it is from the house of Tatas. So being an Indian, that is something that I think is rooted in everybody. Everybody knows the importance of Tatas and to work for Tatas. There's a very there's like a two-liner that goes that invest in Reliance, work for the Tatas kind of a thing. So I think that is something that I wanted to experience. Okay, what is it that everybody is talking about that work for the Tatas? So I think that is something that helped. And then of course, like work-life balance is something that I'm really enjoying. So that is one. But having said that, right now I'm working in the international business of the division, which is giving me, loads to learn much more, because it is about setting up this amazing brand that people love in India, but like taking that market leader brand and then taking up it as a challenger brand in outside of India. So that is a kind of a new challenge that is to be worked on. So in the international business, I'm getting that exposure of being a player amongst the rest international brands.
Got it. So second question is from Hemant. He's saying a management consultant will enjoy by traveling. Similarly, what is the fun part of being a PM?
I think traveling is also a fun part by virtue of the fact that this is an international role. So I am getting to learn a lot about different cultures. The Middle East is something which is infused with culture and spirituality, and that's something that I've started to love. So yes, as a consultant in a management consulting, that is one of the perks. But honestly, it's very good. But after time, it also kind of gets to you, because especially when you're a consultant, then you are not sitting out of anywhere. So that is lovely, but kind of uncertain also. So for me, this was a better route.
Got it. So the next question again by Hemant is, apart from building a product, what are the other things a PM will do in a company?
Apart from building a product, one important aspect is to understand the assortment. which is the product assortment, basically to see what kind of a product mix is going to be working in what part of the world. Like here, if I'm taking the case of a watch, so there are certain parts of the world which are prone to like more leather straps. There are certain parts of the world which like more metal straps. So you need to understand what kind of a mix of products do you need to give. So I think that is product assortment is also a major chunk.
Got it. So our next question is from Vibhor. Is there any difference in PMs in Titan versus any other company? By Titan, he means any Tata Group company PMs versus any other company's PMs.
So in Titan also there are now two types of PMs. One is the real product PMs and the other is the tech product PMs. So and outside is also that kind of a difference. So the product or the challenge changes, wherein when you are a tech product PM, you are looking at a certain aspect of an app or a website as to how to make people get glued to that particular aspect. So I think that is one of the key differences.
Okay. And any decision making or power difference? Is there more power to a PM role in Titan or something like that, if you are aware of?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's very unique to each company, and it's also based on whether you're working in a large format company or are you working in a startup. So that power dynamics changes.
Got it. So last question is, who should, according to you, who should you think should become a PM?
Sure. Just one thing I want to add to the previous question is also that I think one should not look at it from a product or from a power perspective. One should look at it more from an importance perspective, whether or not important work. So I think that kind of then shifts your understanding of that role and how much you want to contribute. Yeah. Sorry. Now, what's the last question?
Yeah, the last question is that who do you think, according to you, is a perfect fit for a PM role?
I think somebody who first enjoys the particular product that is there, because that will sit at the crux of it. Second is, like I said, stakeholder management should be in their pockets as to understand how to go about it, how to talk to people. Third would be just generally a curious person who wants to see what else can be done. Somebody who's very innovative. Okay, this has happened in the world. What else can we contribute into? How else do we contribute to this aspect of product? So that curiosity has to be there in that person to bring in more innovative ideas, to bring in more, what else can be done.
I hope everybody got their answers to all the questions. And now I guess we are ending the session for today. So thank you for joining Inside IIM, Tanya, and all of our fantastic audience. Thank you so much. Audience, I hope you took away some good learnings and we have managed to make your brains work a bit harder. All the best for your career and your life, Tanya. And wish we could have you again here. Maybe our audience might need you for some more questions. So hope to have you here again.
Sure. Just want to add one thing in case there are people who think that there's some other questions that they want to be solved. You can write to me on LinkedIn. And I usually, whenever there's a question or a query, I respond there. So thank you so much, Sunandini, for having me. And thank you, Inside IIM.
Thanks a lot, Tanya. So I'll see you in the next webinar, guys. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.